Howdy y'all, you got the Bulldog on the channel. It's, middle of summer, it's nice and hot. It's a good day to work outside, isn't it? I discovered after knocking one of these wheels off, I've become a pansy and I like my air conditioning. But it's haying season and people need to haul hay and equipment and everything, and so the trailers are coming in, won't fit inside. So here we are out back. I'm gonna knock these wheels off. We gotta repack the bearings. They lost a bearing cap on one of them. Grease looks really nasty. Of course, that's understandable because it's been collecting dust for however long it's been running without a bearing cap. Well, I knocked this wheel off and we took it inside, knocked it apart. I cleaned the stuff up. The grease didn't look too bad when I got to the inner bearing, but it's still pretty darn dark. It's almost black. It was that red grease, the Mystic that they use, but still it's gotten, pretty burned up. She said, don't know when the last time it was done last. So we're gonna go ahead and knock the rest of them off, and I'm gonna roll them inside where it's cool, and I'm gonna knock them apart, clean them, and pack them in there. All right, I got them all knocked off out there, and word of warning, hopefully you haven't, done something ill-advised before I told you about it, but make sure you keep the location of your bearings the same. This here is the right front. That was the one that had the missing cap. I pulled it off first to inspect, because if there was going to be damage, it was going to be damage on that one. But the rest of them, we're going to just repack them. We're going to clean up the bearings and repack them. Now that means coming in here and washing everything off in the parts washer, and then we'll spray it all off with brake clean and put them right here. And you see, I've got the right front in one corner, and then I'll put the left front, the right rear, and the left rear. And we got a seal here. We cleaned it up so that we can go get new seals and you got the numbers and dimensions and everything off of it. And I'm going ahead and cleaning the nut and the washer, just do the whole bit. Actually, a couple of them on the left side, somebody's been in there, put in new brakes, and they cleaned it all off and then put it back together without grease. There's grease on the bearings, and that's it. There's not much there. So good catch. And I'm gonna roll the rest of these in here so that I can do it in the AC, because like I said, I'm a pansy. All right, now we're gonna wash these bearings. I'm gonna drop them into this vat according to where they came out of the vehicle, and then we'll wash them up and put them over there according to where they came out of the vehicle, and I'll pack them the same way. I'll show you. This grease, can it get by? Yeah, it can get by, but it's still pretty nasty. This is a service that you just don't see hardly anymore, because everything's gone to sealed bearings and hub units. I used to do this all the time. I mean, once a week we were packing a trailer, or packing the front end on something. It's really, as far as money goes, I see how it is so much cheaper to service a vehicle every 50,000 miles for $100, and you don't buy parts hardly ever. Whenever the alternative is installing a new part every 100,000 miles that costs $400 or $500. I graduated in the 3rd grade. It only took 3 years. Yeah, I don't understand. I really don't. It costs us time, costs you money, because we make less money because of the increased cost of parts. We don't get the service jobs like we used to, and you spend more. I don't know. They don't ask me before they do anything, but we're doing this, and I'll get back to you. Okay, they're all cleaned up pretty now. I washed all the caps up. I don't usually go that far, but we had a missing cap, and we're gonna have to take one over there to get it matched up. This one here has been replaced, and then that. So we'll get 2 caps. When you're inspecting these bearings, you gotta clean them up first, but unless they're really bad. But you're looking for scores and lines across the roller here. Ideally, you set it down in place and roll it around in the cup and make sure it doesn't have any notches in it, but these look pretty good. All right, we got everything cleaned up. We're gonna start packing bearings now. The way I do it is I pack the small one first, then the big one, so they're sitting on top of each other like that. And then I install the inner bearing in all 4 wheels, put the seals in, whichever way. Here's a bearing packer I use. Pretty simple. Set the thing on there with the cone up. Spin down on it. You're going to get grease everywhere. Now I use an air-powered grease gun with wheel bearing grease in it. And you just pump away until it squeezes out the bottom. Now, it's going to be full of grease inside here. I slide it off to keep all that grease there. Scrape it a little bit and then smear this on the outside. So in between all these rollers, it's completely packed full of grease. This center is full of grease, and I'll show you why that's important when we put it back on. Now I'm going to pack all of these, and then we'll put them in the hubs. Okay, now I've already swapped out a bunch of the old grease that's down inside this hub. You don't have to scrub it and clean it all out for a simple bearing repack. The only time you really need to do that is when the system's completely unknown. You don't know who's been working on it or anything, or you have a bearing failure. Then you got to clean it all out because you might have shavings or something in it. Now, like I say, I wiped this all out, and then I pumped a bead grease around the inside race, so it's well lubed. And I don't wipe off excess grease. You don't want any around where the seal drives in, but you want as much in there as you can get, really. The more grease that's in there, the more it's going to lube it, because when it gets warm, it's going to flow into other places. If you have just enough grease in there to pack the bearing, then when it gets warm, it'll run out of the bearing. So you don't have to be clear full, but close is preferable. What I use to drive seal in is just the axle housing of an old lawnmower. When I say old, I mean old, because you can take it apart and it's not aluminum. Now after it's driven in, stick your finger down in there, touch a little bit of grease, and wipe it on that seal. Now we'll do the other ones. All right, unfortunately, they only had one cap, so I'm gonna have to reuse this thing. We'll see if we can iron it back out. I've been changing a lot of hubs lately, so I got a nice little open area. Ball peen. All right, good enough. It's not going to rub on the nut now. Okay, we're ready to go back together here. Now this one had the cap off of it, missing. So I'm cleaning the grease better on this one than I would normally. Just make sure there's no dirt in it. I'm trying to get this done before noon, which is really close, because it's already close to 90 degrees out here. And like I say, I'm a pansy. I don't like this temperature. Somebody has been into this stuff fairly recently, because there's brand new brakes on these axles, and they just didn't do a good job of packing the bearings. Is this something you can do on your own? Yeah, sure. But there's kind of an art to it, so be mindful of that. Now, because I'm picking these wheels up, I didn't take the tires off of the hubs. It's going to be a little bit heavy. Oh. Now, you get the spindle sticking through a little bit, you stick that bearing in there, do your best to cover up the hole. So that grease kind of squeezes out in there. Now you're going to keep wiping grease off your hands and wiping grease off your hands and wiping grease off your hands, but you're still going to track it everywhere. There is some discussion about how to properly torque these nuts. The way that I do it, get it rolling, and then just crank it down as tight as you can. And then you back it off, and then tighten it up again, and hopefully it's not where this one is, where it's either a little too tight or way too loose. Now, I got that extra. I'm gonna go get some snippers and snip that off. Yeah. Okay, there's one down, rinse and repeat for the other three. Okay, she's all back together and all done. It didn't take very long, but long enough out there in that heat. Like I say, I'm a pansy. So that'll do it for this video. Like, comment, subscribe, hit your little bell notification, share it all around. We'll talk to you later.